welcome. Good morning again to everybody. Some old faces returning and perhaps some folks who are here for the very first time. Great to see you. So good to be able to be continuing this essential activity of being a worshiping community together and holding to the center of what matters to us in community. I'm really grateful that you keep showing up to make it a real thing. So glad you're here. Our mission, as you know, is to celebrate life, empower people, care for one another, and help to build a better world. And anyone who wants to participate in those activities and live that kind of life is welcome to join us. We'll be back in person soon, and we hope you'll come down and introduce yourself to us in person. I want to say particularly this morning, a happy Pride Month. It's June. This very weekend, probably in years past, would be when we would have joined in a big parade or a celebration. This congregation is and always has been gay and straight together, and we're proud of that fact. We were the headquarters for No on 8, those first same-sex marriage ceremonies that I conducted when they became legal are treasured memories to me. Our denomination was among the first to ordain openly gay and transgender people. And we got a big old rainbow flag flying right on the front door. And most of us get our coffee from Brew. So we are proud. And just a sheer shameless trip down nostalgia lane. I just want us to remember how good it's going to be when we get back together again. This is the last time we got to march together a few years ago in the Gay Pride Parade. We had the red. Oh, that's actually, sorry, this is Judy Irvis, who took all the stuffed animals down to the border. 220 animals. So many that the car was completely stuffed and they had to ship a bunch in boxes. That's Enrique Morales, who's the director of Gente Unitas, the group that we're working with down there who are tending to the children in the detention centers. So sorry about that. Sidebar. Don't we have some other pictures here? There we go. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation Santa Rosa advocates for social justice. And there's me being a little bit dramatic, but I'm actually proud of the same-sex romantic relationship I had with one of my best friends in my 20s. So I am proud to be part of that march there. So someday we'll all be back there again. I have to tell you, sorry, one thing. Okay. Somewhere in this screen, you will see a little square that says RE Parents. Religious education has actually gone live down here at the Glazer Center. Outside in the courtyard, things are set up for the kids who will come today. No real class work, lots of fun and togetherness and rebuilding of the community. And the parents get to participate in this service with us right now while their kids are in RE. So a special hello to all y'all there. Final announcement, there's a meeting to talk about the budget after this service starting at noon. When we get to the end of the service, I'll put that Zoom link up in the chat. Again, you got an email about this from Jane DeYoung, our treasurer. Got some hairy issues to talk through, and we want everybody to know what we're dealing with and ask any questions you might have. So there'll be a short break, and then we'll come right back to have that after the service. So there's the news for now. Let's take a deep breath. Feel the fact that we truly are together, even though screens divide us, and enjoy being a part of this great dance of life and of worship together. May music bring us into the spirit of worship.
Good morning. Our chalice lighting this morning is called The Dancing Light by Reverend Scott Taylor. Let this dancing light be our guide. Let it lure us into letting go of the worries, of the stiffness that sets in after all the striving, of the myth that productivity alone gives us purpose. This garden of life we've been given is a playground. The weeding can wait.
I will stand with you. Will you stand with me? We will be the change that we hope to see. In the name of love, in the name of peace. Will you stand with me? I will stand with you. Will you stand with me? We will be the change that we hope to see. In the name of love, in the name of peace. Will you stand with me?
When injustice raises up its fist and fights to stop us in our tracks, we will rise and as one resist. No fear, no sorrow can turn us back.
I will stand with you. Will you stand with me? We will be the change that we hope to see. In the name of love, in the name of peace. Will you stand with me?
Hate and hatred turn up an angry noise and try to shut down our freedom song. We will rise in one joyful voice, loud and clear and ever strong.
I will stand with you. Will you stand with me? We will be the change that we hope to see. In the name of love, in the name of peace. Will you stand with me?
When broken hearts come knocking at our door, lost and hungry and so alone, we will reach as we have reached before, where there's no stranger in this our home.
I will stand with you. Will you stand with me? We will be the change that we hope to see. In the name of love, in the name of peace. Will you stand with me?
In the name of love, in the name of peace, will you stand with me?
Good stuff. I have a poem to share with you that came through Larry Robinson, who I know I've turned you toward many times in the past. Our friend with Rumi's Caravan and the former mayor of Sebastopol, who has a daily poetry list that I consider must read. And this one came through not long ago. And here, as we approach the end of our long experience together, maybe we can hear these words. The pandemic speaks. You called, I came. When the ineffable nameless one opened a space within itself, I was formed from your anguish and cries for peace and unity. What, you thought it would be easy? That I'd arrive in a chariot with an embossed linen decree? I would announce, you all behave. and all the swords and assault rifles would be laid down and all would behave? Instead, like a global tsunami, my wave of energy spreads across your emerald and sapphire globe. I do not pick and choose who or where I'll infect. Like pollen in the wind, I settle where I fall, bringing consequence. I mean no harm, nor punishment, nor retribution. Without anger or remorse, I move, I land, I move on, intending only to spread a seed of common purpose and to serve a greater good. I was there when the frogs and locusts descended upon Egypt, bringing freedom to the Israelite slaves at a high price for those who remained. The cost now has been dear and terrifying, this time shared among all humankind. Yet, with freedom available for all, you who are enslaved by digital technology, unplugged from your daily routine, find abundant new distractions. As technology becomes potential ally, unexpected connections forged, the borders of countries drop away. I'm an organizer who commands humanity to empty your closets, carelessly shoved into the back corners, your broken promises now laid bare in the sunlight, cobwebs gleaming. Chaos abounds before the sift and sort of all the hidden debris. A lifetime and millennium of greed and injustice and hate to be acknowledged, accepted, and atoned. A mirror of consciousness, I have compelled you to look inward, to ask, is this the life I want? Do I love this home, this job, this family, others, myself? You have the chance now to restock the closets with all you have learned about collective agreement and sacrifice, to reset the consciousness of the world. There is no time for you to waste on hope or despair. This is a time of acceptance and alignment, collaboration and compassion. It's up to you now to have grown from the trial I have brought. Acknowledge the reset or don't. It has happened regardless of your awareness. I will leave as the plagues left Egypt, when your own stiff neck has softened, when you accept the other in all the lands and the unknown, unloved other. And last week, for the first time, we sang our Sources song. Henceforth, we're going to sing the principal song one week and the Sources song the next, so that everybody learns both as we imagine the children coming on down for Time for All Ages. Let's sing our Sources. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you don't know what to do, look to the sources of UU. Sense of wonder we all share, those whose lives are kind and fair. A world of faith from which we learn the love of God we all deserve. Reason and science that show what's true, the web that holds both me and you. Together these 6 sources say everything will be okay. For our Time for All Ages, we have a video that has been prepared.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Time for All Ages. My name is Eric Capone, and I am the Director of Religious Education here at UUCSR. It's so wonderful to be here with all of you on this beautiful Sunday in June. Today, we are taking time to honor Megan Foote, TK Kittelstrom, and Max Parrish. This week, these 3 amazing teenagers finished their senior year of high school and took great strides into their lives as young adults. To honor this momentous occasion, we'll be hearing from Max and Megan today as they share where their journeys will lead them next and reflect on what they will be taking with them as UUs. We will also be hearing from the parents of these wonderful young adults, as well as the former DRE, Deborah Mason. So please, join us in this celebration of Megan, Max, and TK.
Good morning. One of the first things I'm looking forward to after I graduate is this summer. Normally, I have a lot of priorities, like I'm usually on a couple different UU councils, or I have a bunch of summer homework for AP classes, or I'm taking a class at the JC, or studying for the SATs, or all that fun stuff. But this summer, my only priorities are my physical and mental health, and I'm really looking forward to that break before I go to college. I'm going to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo in the fall. I'll be majoring in child development, and I'm really excited for that. And I also want to take a moment to thank my UU community. From everyone here at UUCSR to YRUUP and more. I think one of the most important things that I've learned from all of you guys is that intergenerational friendship and teamwork is extremely powerful and rewarding. Youth offer new and fresh perspectives and have immense agility in problem solving, while adults offer wisdom and patience that's commensurate with age and experience. Something I've also learned, especially being on the YRUP Council, is that just when to ask for help and how to offer help and how to encourage others to do their work without doing it for them, and that delegation is essential in a successful leadership. I also am going to deeply miss just coming to church every Sunday and seeing all of your guys' smiling faces, whether it's on Zoom or in person. You guys just fill me with life. Like I love all of you so much, and this community means so much to me, and you guys have played such an important role in my development. I also want to especially thank Chris, Deborah, and Jen. You guys have never failed to offer such an accepting and loving space where we can explore our spirituality, and I'm beyond grateful for that. And I'm gonna carry the things that I learned here throughout me for my whole entire life, like no doubt about that. And I'm also looking forward to finding a UU community in San Luis Obispo. So yeah, thank you.
Megan started coming to UUCSR when she was 2 years old. In the beginning, it was an ordeal to get her to come, and she really was only in it for the cookies. But then something clicked for her, and she was hooked. And I'm almost positive that it was Deborah Mason that hooked her. One of my favorite memories is when Andrew Heides asked Megan how he should introduce her when she was going to light the chalice at a Sunday service. I think she was about 8 years old. She told him to tell the congregation that she rode her scooter to church every Sunday and loved rock climbing. And then as he was walking away, she added, "And don't forget to tell them I'm a feminist." That's my daughter. This congregation and the extended Northern California UU community have helped shape Megan into the wonderful woman she is today. Monthly Saturday morning breakfasts feeding our neighbors, UU childcare, OWL, MUGS, YRUUP, Common Ground Council, including many leadership roles. This community has been a significant part of her formative years of growing up. I so enjoyed driving Megan, Max, and TK to youth conferences and watching them grow into the incredible young adults they are today. I will miss you so much, Megan, but I know that you will succeed at anything you put your mind to. And I can't wait to watch you take off and soar. Watch out, world. Watch out, Cal Poly. Here comes Megan Dickeyfoot. Yay!
Good morning, my name is Max Parrish. This year, after graduation in the summer, I'm planning on going to Humboldt State University. 4 years ago, I didn't even think I would make it to this point in my life. And for that, I have to thank my UU community. There have been so many life lessons I've taken away from this community that have helped me grow and mature in ways that I couldn't have without the influence of UUism. Coming to services and being in community in our sanctuary has given me so much peace and love, and allowed me to grow in so many ways that I've appreciated so much. When I go up to Humboldt this fall, I plan to major in business and ceramics. an art that I've fallen in love with over the past year. And I also plan on affiliating myself with the UU community there. Thank you.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Katie Parrish and I'm Max's parent. And Jason and I want to start by thanking this community, this congregation, for creating such a beautiful space for these kids to grow up. Reverend Chris, you inspired us from the beginning and you've had such a beautiful place in our hearts. So thank you. Deborah and Jen, you guys were the dynamic duo in holding our Max and keeping him safe and keeping him connected to something really important, which is his ingrained understanding of Unitarian Universalism, his value, his worth, his place in the world, his voice, all of those things you've influenced, and he is devoted to UU, and I just thank you both. Max, Megan, and TK, I know you're going to carry forward and you're going to do great things. Max, you are a beautiful person and we love you so much. And your devotion to the Chalice, the way that you hold that in your heart and in your soul, we want you to carry that forward. So thanks to everyone here. Era, you're going to do great things for the young people coming up. They're so lucky to be a part of all of this. Thank you so much.
Hello, UU Santa Rosa. My name is David. I'm the father of Traeger Kittelstrom, or TK, as he is known. It gives me great pleasure to be here and have this opportunity to thank you for being there for TK and all that you have given him since he started attending almost 10 years ago. His experiences in MUGS and youth group and in RE have been foundational for him in helping developing a sense of moral identity and a set of ideals. And he got his first work experience here. Jen and Deborah, you were both jewels, and I can't thank you enough. He attended the OWL program when he was younger, the curriculum and human sexuality. Thank you very much for that, Ben. But foremost for TK, for whom his community is his alpha and omega, have been the friendships that he has developed here, both within the church, especially Max and Megan, but also with the friends he's met through retreats and camps, through the Association of Northern California UU congregations. They have been really essential for him in terms of nourishing and bringing value to his life. This pandemic, though, has not been so easy on TK. It really frayed those connections to spiritual friends and his core values. And more than a few occasions we have worried in the last year and a half. But he's made it through, and now the graduation is in the rearview mirror. He's not really sure yet what he's going to do, but one thing he knows for sure is that he will be reestablishing those connections that have been so important for him. So I just wanted to say again, thank you. UU Santa Rosa, I can't tell you how important it is that you're here, and how great it is that you've been able to feed and sustain TK over these years. Thanks.
It's hard for me to believe that TK, Max, and Megan are bridging. What a special thing. It's been so many years with them. Megan started in RE when she was with me. When I first came, she was just a preschooler. And TK and Max came along in about the 3rd grade. And so I was their DRE and a listening ear for them for quite a few years. And I'm so excited to see what will happen in the next chapter of their lives. One of the main things that I think of when I think of the 3 of them, and I do think of them as the 3 of them, is that we all, the 4 of us, started out together in the MUGS ministry. And what that is middle school Unitarian Universalist gatherings. And the ministry is the governing and planning body for the 4 retreats that they have per year. And so when the 3 of them were in the 6th grade, they all volunteered to be on the ministry. The ministry is comprised of half adults and half youth. So it's really a wonderful training ground for budding leadership. So the 3 of them started out and they learned so much, and I watched their development as leaders, learning to ask questions and answer questions and voice opinions and bear in mind the principles as they made their plans for the upcoming retreats. It was a real joy to see, and I remember so well being at the retreats with them and watching them in action as they made new friends and explored new ways of being. And it was a really, really special time that I was able to have with Max, TK, and Megan. And their leadership continues. Megan has been on the leadership board of YRUUP, which is the high school retreat group. And Max was on the PCD board. So the 3 of them have such incredible potential for leadership, for deep heart, for loving, and for succeeding in this life. And so I wish them so well as they go on their journey, and I hope I can see them along the way.
Were we together, we would form a great line, and we would raise our hands, and we would make them run underneath, and we would scream and shout and holler. All we can do now is put our hands up, unmute yourself, and let's have a big roar of applause for our graduates.
Way to go, gang!
Thank you, guys.
So proud of you. What a delight, truly, to have known and watched you grow all these years. I cannot wait to see what comes next. You are beautiful. Got to mute you again, sorry. And take just the, we usually conclude our time for all ages with our unison affirmation. Won't you join me? Megan, are you here?
Yeah, you want me to lead it?
Yeah, let's get you spotlit real quick. How about Max, you're here too?
Yeah, can we do it together? It'll be a little bumpy, but that's okay.
How do we find you and spotlight you? That's the challenging thing. Totally put you on the spot. Awful, just shameful. Add spotlight. There you are. All right, what are we?
We are Unitarian Universalists, people of the open mind, loving hearts, and helping hands.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Friends, just a friendly reminder that everything we do because we pool our resources. We members of this community, we volunteer our hours and hours and hours of time and leadership and hard work for each other, for the building, for caring for the world, for caring for our hearts. We also donate our own money, and we pay for everything here ourselves, including our ministry to the hungry folks on Saturday mornings. If you want to support that or any of the other ministries of the congregation, I'd ask you to visit our website, and please be generous today, and thank you. We do what we get to do because we do it for each other. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And we honor that by reading these words together. To the work of creating beloved community in and beyond our walls, we dedicate these offerings and ourselves. And let's hear our week's milestones.
Good morning. I'm Barbara Kezur, one of your lay chaplains. Milestones are where we share our joys and sorrows with the congregation. You are invited to light a candle to remember those you are holding near to your hearts. Hallie Decarian writes, my lovely granddaughter, Sienna Decarian, will be graduating from Berkeley High in June. She plans to attend college at UC Santa Cruz, and it is a very happy time for her family after a rather long learning at home year. Betty Gordon shares, Sid had been having increasing difficulty breathing, so on Monday evening, our daughter Gail brought him to the Kaiser emergency room. They discovered that his body was retaining liquid and fluid was in his lungs. The doctors wanted to keep him in the hospital until he is free of all the fluid, so we don't know how long that will be. He may be home by the time you hear this, but I thought Milestones was a good way to reach many of you. My daughter Judy is here from Sacramento to help out in so many ways, so I have help, but would like your good wishes and kind thoughts sent my way. Carol Weisker says, I have just learned of the passing of my dear Aunt Signe Pekanen, 104 years old. She has been sleeping for the past 3 days, not eating or drinking, and then she just left us to be with her husband, my uncle Ino. Her remains will be buried next to Ino in rural Minnesota. Rev Chris reported John Speck, age 78, died last Tuesday. If you've walked past the adult education table on a Sunday morning or visited that section of our website, you've seen John's attractive and clever posters advertising our class offerings. John was able to retire at the age of 45 after a very successful career at the shipyards in Mare Island and devoted the rest of his life to writing, social justice, environmental activism, and his large and beloved family. He was smart, funny, and kind. His family has organized a come and go memorial gathering to be held at Kennedy Park in the city of Napa from 2 to 6 today, June 6th, with a few informal words spoken around 3. They will be in the Mulberry 2 picnic area near the southwest corner of the first parking lot on Streblow. I plan to attend on UUCSR's behalf. We've been asked to please wear blue in honor of John's favorite color and his blue eyes. Roger De Beers, age 83, passed away after declining steadily over the past several weeks. Roger came to us as a single parent some 13 or 14 years ago, seeking support in raising his young son, Roger Jr., and was so appreciative of our kindness that he dedicated his most recent book, The Boy with the Broken Smile, in part to our congregation. Roger was an extraordinary character with a long and greatly varied life. His similarities to my own father softened my heart to him in a unique way, even as they also challenged me. I shall truly miss him. Memorial plans are pending. If you have something to share with all or a private concern to talk over with a lay chaplain, please contact us at laychaplains@uusantarosa.org. We give thanks for the sharing of these milestones, for how they remind us of our shared humanity and our common fate and inspire our compassion and care. May all our joys be magnified as we delight together in the good news, and may all our sorrows be eased as we carry them together in community. And may you who are seeking courage, comfort, faith, and hope find what you seek, and may all people grow in wisdom, compassion, and love so that the whole world might live with justice and in peace. Take good care and be well.
Thank you, Barbara. Before we move into a time of prayer and then stillness together in silent meditation with the candles burning, another milestone this week, as many of you I'm sure saw on the news and so forth, was the 100th anniversary of the destruction of what was called Black Wall Street in Tulsa, an extraordinary tale Tom Hanks, of all people, wrote an editorial about it in the New York Times. CNN did a wonderful special that you can probably find. This is such a horrifying moment in U.S. history that no one would speak of it for generations, and really we're just coming to terms with it now. It will break your heart, but you should let it break your heart. Out of that brokenheartedness comes our thirst for justice and equality. So I turn you in that direction. And I'd ask you to make yourself still and comfortable. And take this moment, which is the only thing we really have, this breath, this next breath, this moment of being aware and awake and feeling connected to our bodies and our souls and to each other and to the wide world. This still place is the source of all awakening and love and compassion, wisdom. It's a reservoir that's in us at all times. If we open our hearts to it, our ears, say, thank you, Spirit of Life, for this gift of being. May we be worthy of the gift. Let us be in silence together and let the Holy speak to us. Amen.
Back in January, when I was asked how I was coping with the stresses of the COVID pandemic, the image of a much too long flight came to me. My family and I had been on a long plane trip at the end of 2019, so that experience was still fresh. I remembered the cramped seats and the slow passage of time. At takeoff, like at the beginning of the pandemic, I imagined it would be over before too long and it wouldn't be too bad. In other words, I was in denial. For the first few hours, I was able to avoid thinking about the fact that we were in a metal tube floating up in the air above the ocean. And likewise, having to work around other people every day in the first months of the pandemic had its own intensity that kept me from thinking too much about the risk of sickness and possible death that hovered around me all the time. The daily horrors of New York and Italy on the news made our community feel relatively safe in the early days. The fantasy that the flight would soon be over began to fall apart about 6 hours in, when I couldn't bear sitting anymore, and my bladder drove me to the tiny bouncing box that passes for a bathroom on a plane. Moving around and the change of scenery gave me a little recovery from my body's growing rebellion against the cramped position it was forced into. But once back in my seat, I began to metaphorically grit my teeth. Around the fourth month of COVID, things started to feel a little more dangerous here, with cases increasing in LA and in the Bay Area. People I knew were getting sick and dying. My sense of security began to waver, and much of the world around me seemed out of control. With the political background noise adding to the pandemic, it was getting hard for me to imagine an end to it. Back on the flight, I tried to sleep, but really couldn't. All the movies and TV shows available were useful distraction, but a sense of endlessness began to set in. Around 9 or 10 hours I began to have the urge to jump up and run down the aisle, but I successfully suppressed it. At about 9 months into the pandemic, I began to have a similar urge to tear off my mask in public and breathe freely. At the same time, the virus was getting closer. Cases were increasing, and I received notification from multiple projects we were working on that I or my workers had been exposed to somebody who had tested positive. I'd begun to double up protection with both an N95 and a cloth mask. And by that time, I had a well-established routine of masking and unmasking, of tracking everything I touched, and hand sanitizing every time I got into my vehicle. At that point, it felt like it was only a matter of time before I got infected. Just when I thought I couldn't stand another minute of my flight, we began to cross over land, and I knew that we were just over an hour from reaching our destination. Knowing that the flight would actually end gave me the hope I needed to make it through. The turning point in the pandemic came for me around mid-January, when the vaccines began to roll out. I knew that we would probably be able to get vaccinated in March or April. And though I was a little concerned about the speed of vaccine development, they seemed remarkably effective. I also felt the danger in that moment. Being able to see an end to the pandemic made me want to relax, to worry less. Sure enough, in the third week of March, one of my employees, someone who I'd been working with almost every day in interior spaces without adequate social distancing, tested positive for COVID. The good news was our masks worked. No one else got infected, and my employee recovered quickly. We were all able to get vaccinated on April 1st. While the first shot felt like a kind of liberation, the waiting before and after the second shot seemed endless. Landing from that long flight also seemed to take forever, but watching us slowly descend to the airport gave my mind what it needed to imagine what it would be like to step out of the plane and walk on the earth again. Being fully vaccinated has given me a vision of what life could be without the virus. Taking walks and working outside unmasked feel like the first steps toward the door of the plane. My men's group just had its first in-person unmasked meeting. We'd been on Zoom since March of 2020, and being able to see faces and hug felt like such a luxury. At the same time, the virus is still among us, and there are unvaccinated people who are vulnerable. The plane's landed, and we're close to freedom, but we can't get out of our seats quite yet. I can feel that moment coming, though. Coming soon.
Everything is gonna be alright. Hold on just a while. Hold on just a little while. Hold on just a little while longer. Everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. Pray on just a little while longer. Pray on just a little while longer. Pray on just a little while longer. Everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. Fight on just a little while longer. Fight on just a little while longer. Fight on just a little while longer. Everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. Sing on just a little while longer. Everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright.
As many of you know, certainly anyone who joined us for worship last week, I took my own first flight in many, many months, years even, to Portland last weekend. And I don't know if it's comforting or terrifying to tell you that, that it's exactly the same, that everything you hate about flying is still there for you when the day will come for the next trip for you, should it ever. For me, it was a most memorable flight. Every seat on the plane was empty except for the one next to mine, which gave me a brief moment of hope, although they had said the flight would be full. And sure enough, at the very last second, a rather large, kind of piled up all over himself, funky hat young guy with a mohawky kind of haircut plopped down in the seat next to me. Smelled a little bit like he had been drinking. It was 8 a.m. And he leaned right over to me and he said, "Can I ask you a question? What's your favorite part about being alive?" I was quite taken aback, as you might imagine, and decided I needed to think about that for a little bit as he settled in. I said, well, I'm going to have to think about it a little bit, but that didn't really slow him down. piled his stuff all around and everything, started talking. He was very determined to ask me a variety of personal questions that 40 seconds in, I was not yet fully comfortable in our trusting friendship to necessarily answer. It took all of my ministerial non-anxious presence superpower and my ministerial therapeutic deflection superpower to keep saying things like, oh, well, this and that. How about you? What do you do for a living? At one point he said, hey, I've got another question if I don't mind my asking. That's how he said it. I've got another question if I don't mind my asking. At that point, I did have to say, clearly you don't mind asking. He laughed. He kept asking me if he was overbearing. I said, I can handle it, but you are asking a lot of questions. He asked again, are you a part of a social group? What's your social group? I said, my main group, I guess, is my congregation, my church. I call it a church for shorthand. He said, are you Jewish? I thought, well, since pretty much by default, if you call your place a church, you're not, no, and I've had enough. So I said, you know, friend, I got it very early this morning and I need to take a nap. That got me through the duration of that long flight. When I woke up, my guy was right back to it until the end of the flight when he finally got up and got off. And after he headed down the jetway, the fellow who'd been sitting in front of us the whole time took a moment to put his hands on my shoulders and say, you are a very generous person. It was sweet. The whole thing kind of made my day in a weird way. It could have been kind of a nightmare, but in fact it was sort of a thought-provoking and unexpected engagement. Not the longest flight in the world, and it did help to close my eyes and leave him be for a little while. I've been on some really long flights like Eric described to Hong Kong and Sydney and one to Cape Town. That was the longest flight of all coming home. It was 16 hours. And I have had all of those experiences, including very much of thinking, I wonder if it would be, how bad would it be if I opened the door and jump out? Somewhere on the 9-hour mark where you realize you have a whole nother flight across America to go ahead of you. And when Eric brought this metaphor up in one of our worship associates meeting, as he just described, it just so perfectly seems to speak to what we've been trying to go through together, this experience of a long struggle and those challenging moments along the way where we get hit with panic or despair, or we're, having to hang out with somebody that we might not have exactly wished to hang out with for this much amount of time. And, in me, it actually produced some fairly serious panic. That's a long flight. The pandemic's been a long experience. You may have had this sort of thing in any number of contexts. My guess is somewhere along the long flight of high school, you thought, I'm just going to get in the car and drive away and not return to these classes tomorrow. We've all been there. And when I think about how I made it through those really long flights to those distant lands and those panicked feelings, a similar feeling as I had in the hospital after my heart surgery around the third day, the fact that the windows didn't open began to make me feel just extraordinarily compressed. Really, I'm not a claustrophobic person, I think, but that just feeling like, not unlike that feeling on the plane, and not unlike a feeling I've had 1 or 2 days during this pandemic, or 100 days. And my discovery is that the only way through those moments is to return to the moment. That on the plane, when I would start to get really nervous or think I couldn't do it anymore, there was only one option. I'm stuck in this tiny seat. And it's to say, thank you, Buddha. You are giving me an extraordinary meditation retreat opportunity right now. There's nothing else for me to do but return to my breath, return to the source. A mirror of consciousness, I have compelled you to look inward, said that first poem we heard. And it's like, okay, so Chris, You're very anxious. What might that be about? You know, what's going on in your body? Can you relax your body? Can you realize that you are able to expand your mind into this moment in a way that holds it with compassion and acceptance and lets you breathe through and keep going? And we all have that. We all have that space in us, that inner wisdom, that awareness that is just tied to the moment and to breath and to now, is the origin of hope and faith and strength and courage. That's the still small voice within where we find the sacred one. And turning to that inner space that says, all right, I'm still me, I still have love, I still have my powers, I'm in control of this response system, even though it cannot move. That power has seen humanity through the horrors of all of history. I mean, I think a long flight is a bad thing. Every now and then I really think about what it would be like to be in prison or in solitary confinement. And surely, as damaging and traumatic as those experiences are, the only way people make it through is they find that still small voice within. There's nothing else to hold on to. And I think we've discovered it. And maybe one gift of the pandemic and the way that it slowed us down for so long is some of us actually had to sit with ourselves longer than we might have otherwise, and to overcome our resistances to ourselves, maybe do as that poem proclaimed, and love the unknown, unloved other within even. So that still small point is very powerful and very sacred. We got to turn to it even now. It's been a long flight. We're grumpy and edgy. Some people want to rush off the plane. Some are going to wait until everyone gets off. Some want to run to the hotel bar and celebrate together. Some just want to get back to their room and crash. If we each stay centered in our best space, then we can treat each other with kindness and acceptance while we stumble forward through this time and begin to let the spirit move and the happy re-engagement happen. We really are close to the jetway now. You know, I told that story of that fellow. I don't want to paint him in too negative a light. It was kind of annoying, but mostly very funny to me, and it gave me a great story. And it gave me a great question. Who sits down next to you on a plane and asks, what's your favorite part about being alive? And today I answer, being alive, which we are here now with each other. Thanks. Okay, hey, I've got a song for you, and we're just going to sing it together with me strumming on the old guitar. Here are the words. This is our closing hymn, One More Step. I wrote a couple extra verses for it. I'm going to make this document a little larger so I can see everything. One more step. You know this one. You might want to rise in body or spirit if you're so moved to sing along. And please join me as you're willing and able. One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared. Everyone will say one more prayer. One more tear, we will shed one more tear, till every tear is felt by everyone. We'll shed one more tear. One more breath, we will breathe one more breath, till we are breathing as one in harmony. We'll breathe one more breath, one more song. We will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
Our closing words today are number 700 in the hymnal. For all who see God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. For all who seek a right path, may a way be found, and the courage to take it step by step.
Teach me to dance. Will you?
Dance? Did you say dance? Come on, my boy.